After driving 9 hours to help my mother-in-law move, I found out she'd given my room to her son. Temporarily. I slept on the floor for 2 weeks, until I heard her whisper, "I'll never let that nobody be family." When I asked her why she said that, my husband laughed and said, "You were just convenient. Don't act surprised." The next morning, all my clothes were in a garbage bag on the porch, and my car was gone. What I did after I walked 5 miles in the rain. I gave everything to that man. Derek. I paid for part of our wedding, let him use my car, covered groceries when he was between jobs, and even skipped a cousin's funeral to help his mother move into her new place. And still, none of it mattered. This story really started the moment his mom, Joanne, called him and said she needed help packing and moving into the house she inherited from her sister. It wasn't a small job. That place was full of old furniture, boxes, trash, all kinds of junk. Derek asked me to come help, and I said yes without thinking. We lived in Charlotte, North Carolina. She was in Decatur, Illinois. That's a solid 9-hour drive. He could have gone by himself, but I thought maybe if I showed his mom I cared, things between us would finally get better. I was wrong. So wrong. We left early in the morning. I drove most of the way because Derek said his back hurt. He slept for half the trip. Barely said 2 words to me. When we finally got there, Joanne opened the door, looked right past me, and hugged Derek like he'd come back from war. Then she looked at me and said flatly, "Oh, you made it." Not, "Thank you." Not, "How was the drive?" Just, "You made it." Already I felt it. That cold, weird tension. But I let it go. I helped bring in our bags, and that's when she told me they'd set Derek's room up. Not a guest room. Not a room for both of us. Derek's room. I followed Derek upstairs and saw his stuff already on the bed. A big comfy one. Fresh sheets. New pillows. Me? I got the sewing room. No bed. Just a hard floor, a thin blanket that smelled like mothballs, and a rolled-up towel for a pillow. When I asked Joanne if maybe we could get a cot or something, she gave me this fake smile and said, "There's just no space right now. It's only temporary. You understand?" Derek said nothing. Just looked at his phone. That first night, I lay on that floor and stared at the ceiling, thinking, this is just until we help her get moved in. I can handle this. But that turned into 2 days. Then 5. Then 10. Nobody offered me a real bed, even though Joanne had 2 guest rooms filled with unpacked boxes she refused to move. Sentimental stuff, she called it. I scrubbed baseboards, dragged heavy furniture, made dinner every night. I did everything. While Derek sat on the couch playing Xbox or out with his old friends. Every time I asked him to help, he said, "I will later," and never did. Joanne never said a kind word. She called me, girl, most of the time, like she didn't even want to say my name. By the second week, my back was so sore from sleeping on the floor that I couldn't stand straight in the morning. Then came the night everything snapped. It was around midnight. I was thirsty and went to the kitchen for some water. I heard voices from the living room and stopped when I heard my name. Joanne. "I'll never let that nobody be part of our family." Derek laughs. "She was just convenient. Don't act surprised." I couldn't move. I couldn't breathe. They didn't know I was there, just a few feet away in the hallway. I felt like my whole body went cold. I walked into the room and stood there shaking. "What did you mean by that?" I asked. Joanne didn't even blink. Derek turned, looked at me like I was an idiot, and said, "You were just convenient. Don't act surprised." I stood there frozen. I thought maybe it was a joke. A cruel one. But they were serious. Joanne just sat there like I was an annoying fly. Derek didn't even apologize. Just went back to his phone. I slept on the floor again that night, but this time I didn't cry. I just stared at the wall and waited for morning. I woke up early, around 6 a.m. When I opened the sewing room door, my heart sank. All my clothes were stuffed into a black trash bag sitting on the porch. My purse was gone. My phone, gone. I walked outside barefoot in my pajamas, and Joanne just looked at me through the screen door and said, "You're gonna want to find somewhere else. We've got family coming in." I asked where my car was. She shrugged. I knew right away Derek had taken it. I didn't know where. I didn't even know if I could get it back. I just knew I wasn't welcome anymore. So I did the only thing I could do. I picked up the garbage bag full of my clothes, and I walked. No phone. No money. No one I could call. Just 5 miles in the rain with a bag on my shoulder and mud in my socks. I ended up at a strip mall on the edge of town. I sat on the curb outside a Payless, soaked through and shaking. I waited there for 2 hours, watching the clouds, trying to figure out what I had done to deserve any of this. That's when a woman from the nail salon walked out and asked if I was okay. I told her everything. I don't know why. It all just poured out. She gave me her phone. I didn't want to call anyone. Not my parents, we weren't close. Not friends, they didn't know what Derek had turned into. So I called Melanie. Melanie is my older sister. We hadn't spoken in a while because Derek always said she was too nosy, and always judging him. He convinced me she didn't like him, that she thought he wasn't good enough for me. Turns out she was right. She picked up on the second ring. I told her everything, fast, out of breath, embarrassed. I expected her to say, "I told you so." She didn't. She just said, "Text me the address. I'm on my way." She showed up 3 hours later with a full tank of gas, a warm blanket, and a sandwich. I cried when I saw her. I don't think I'd let myself cry until then. She took me back to her place in Evansville. Gave me her bed. She slept on the couch. Fed me, gave me clean clothes, and said, "Take as long as you need. And then we're going to fix this." I didn't know what she meant at first. But I was about to find out. The first few days at Melanie's place were quiet. She let me sleep, eat, and just exist. No pressure. No questions. I didn't even touch my phone except to check email once or twice. But by day 4, something inside me started boiling. I opened my email and saw a message from Derek. Subject: "Hope you made it somewhere safe." It said, "Look, I know things got rough, but you need to understand this was about family. My mom didn't feel comfortable with you there anymore. I had to think long term. No hard feelings. We're all trying to move on. No hard feelings?" He stole my car, left me with no money, no phone, and dumped my clothes in a trash bag. But yeah, no hard feelings. Melanie was sitting at the table when I read it. I told her everything. "You're sure the car was in your name?" she asked. "Insurance, registration, all under me. But he used it more than I did." She nodded, then opened her laptop. That was the beginning of the real fight. Melanie helped me run a full credit check. I didn't expect much. My score had always been decent, but what I saw made my stomach turn. A credit card had been opened under my name 5 months earlier. Maxed out. $7,200 in charges at stores I'd never shopped at. Home Depot, Best Buy, Menards. I didn't recognize a single one. The mailing address? Joanne's new house. She'd stolen my information. Maybe Derek helped. Maybe he didn't. But I had a name on the card and a full history of purchases. We filed a fraud report that day. Next step? The car. Melanie had a friend who worked at the DMV. We found out that 2 weeks before the move, Derek filed a claim that the car was abandoned on his property. He signed an affidavit saying he was the sole user and had no way of contacting the original owner. He forged my name on the release. My name. In my handwriting. Except it wasn't. We took it to a lawyer Melanie knew from work, nothing fancy, just a local guy who did civil cases. He looked at the documents, raised his eyebrows, and said, "You've got a real shot here." He helped us file a report for vehicle theft and fraud. And that was just the start. I didn't know this at the time, but Joanne's new house, the one she kicked me out of, wasn't entirely hers. Her sister had left the house to Joanne and any living nieces or nephews as needed. A weird clause, but it meant that if she couldn't maintain it or pay property taxes, the estate could be reopened, and the rest of us could claim a share. Guess who was technically one of those nieces? Me. I had proof. Photos from the wedding, emails, even a family group chat that Joanne had once added me to, then later removed me from. Petty but useful. The lawyer said it might be enough to establish a small stake in the property. Melanie was ruthless. She said, "If they treated you like garbage, then let's give them a landfill to live in." I wanted to be mad at her for making jokes, but I wasn't. I was tired of crying. Tired of being weak. I didn't want to feel ashamed anymore. So we pushed. 2 weeks later, Derek called me. First time I'd heard his voice since Decatur. "You really want to make this ugly?" he said. "Over a car? Over a few receipts?" I didn't say a word. He kept talking. "You think you're gonna win? You think anyone's gonna believe you didn't know about the card? That you didn't let my mom use your info?" Then he slipped up. He said, "You knew we were stretched thin." We. Not her. We. That was all I needed. I had the call recorded. Melanie had installed a basic app on my phone the day I got a new one, just in case he called. We handed that recording straight to the lawyer. And then things started to move fast. Derek's employer, one of those construction companies that takes pride in honesty and hard work, got a copy of the police report. I didn't send it. Melanie didn't either. But someone did. He was fired within days. Then Joanne got a summons from the court about the house. Melanie drove out to Decatur the day it arrived. She parked 2 blocks away and just watched. Joanne came out onto the porch screaming. Neighbors stared. Mail still in her hand. She ripped the envelope open and threw it into the yard. Slammed the door. Later that night, Derek messaged me on Instagram from a new account. "You think this is going to fix you? You're pathetic." I blocked him. I didn't need to respond. He had no job. No car. No house. No control over the narrative anymore. But I still wasn't done. I started contacting everyone I knew who had been around during our relationship. I asked for old texts, messages, anything that might help paint a clearer picture. One of Derek's exes sent me something I'll never forget. It was a message Joanne had sent her 2 years ago, before I was even around. "If he ever brings home another useless girl, I'll handle it. He needs a woman who serves, not one who whines." Apparently, I wasn't the first. Just the last one who stayed long enough to hear it whispered in the dark. About a month after the fraud case started moving forward, I got a call from a blocked number. Normally, I don't answer those, but I just applied for some jobs, so I picked up. It was Joanne. She sounded calm. Too calm. "I think we should talk, just the 2 of us," she said. I didn't say anything. She kept going. "You've made your point. Derek's life is ruined. Mine's not far behind. But maybe we can end this before it gets worse." I asked. "Worse for who?" Silence. Then she said, "You should be careful what kind of mud you dig up. It doesn't always land where you think." I hung up. And I called Melanie. She was furious. "She's trying to intimidate you. That's all this is." I wasn't so sure. Something about her voice, it didn't sound like fear. It sounded like calculation. I started to feel like there were pieces of this story I hadn't uncovered yet. And then I got the envelope. No return address. Just my name, written in all caps. Inside were copies of screenshots. Dozens of them. Messages between Derek and Joanne. They weren't about me. They were about Melanie. Turns out, Joanne had dug into Melanie's financial records. She somehow got access to Melanie's old social media accounts. Found pictures of her with her ex-husband, and copied posts about their divorce. She used a fake Facebook account to message Melanie's ex's new wife. Things like, "She still talks about him," and "She told people he was abusive." None of it was true. Joanne had tried to ruin Melanie long before she ever ruined me. I brought the envelope to Melanie. She looked through every page, face pale, lips tight. When she got to the end, she said, "She never wanted me near you. That's why Derek pushed you to cut me off." I nodded. She played us both. Melanie sat quiet for a long time. Then she said, "Okay. Gloves off." We filed a defamation claim. Melanie had every right to. Some of the screenshots were real. Her ex's wife had already shown them to a friend. Word had gotten around that Melanie was obsessed with her ex. She even got denied for a daycare job because the director said they couldn't risk drama. That director? Joanne's cousin. I swear, it was like they had their own little army. But that army was falling apart. The court finally ruled on the fraud. The card Joanne opened in my name? Confirmed. I wasn't held responsible. She was fined and forced to pay restitution, which she didn't have. They started garnishing her monthly Social Security payments. Derek's stolen car mess? His forged signature alone would have been enough, but the fact that he also submitted a false affidavit made it criminal. A warrant was issued. He didn't turn himself in. But someone sent me a video. A girl I barely knew from Decatur, someone I'd spoken to maybe once at a party. Messaged me on Instagram with a video of Derek getting pulled over in a grocery store parking lot. Police pulled him from the driver's seat of a different car. Not mine. Probably his latest, convenient, girlfriend's. In the video he yelled, "It's my ex-wife. She did all this. She's obsessed." Ex-wife. Funny. I didn't remember signing any divorce papers. That's when I checked the court records. And my stomach dropped. He'd filed for divorce 3 weeks after I left. Had the papers sent to an old address, one he knew I hadn't used in over a year. Marked the notice as delivered and signed. He forged my signature again. This time, on divorce papers. Melanie and I took the paperwork straight to a lawyer, a better one this time. He looked at everything and said, We've gone from fraud to felony-level identity theft. He helped us file to void the divorce. He also helped us submit a new claim to the state for marital property fraud, which meant Derek couldn't claim any joint assets, including the portion of the estate I was still tied to through Joanne. But something kept nagging at me. Why go through all that trouble? Why fake a divorce if I was already gone? The answer came 2 days later, in a message from a woman named Tanya. She wrote, "Hi. I know this might be strange, but I think I'm dating your husband. I found your name on a court record and needed to reach out. He told me he was divorced. I just found some stuff that doesn't add up." She attached pictures. Him on her couch. Him holding her baby. A photo of him wearing the same hoodie I bought him for his birthday. Then she attached one more image, a snapshot of a drawer full of mail. Some of it with my name on it. He'd been keeping pieces of my life. Using them. Rewriting the story with every new woman. I asked Tanya if she could meet me. She said yes. We met in a Starbucks 2 towns away. She looked tired, shaken, like someone trying to pretend their world hadn't just been set on fire. She brought the mail with her. She gave me my old passport, tax forms, even a set of house keys. Then she said, "He told me you cheated. That you stole his mom's credit card and ran off with a coworker." I laughed. Then I cried. Then I told her everything. We stayed in that Starbucks for over 3 hours. By the time we left, Tanya promised to testify. And I promised I wasn't finished. Because Derek and Joanne thought they were dealing with a nobody. They didn't realize the nobody had receipts. They didn't know she had a sister with a spine of steel. And they sure didn't expect all the women they'd stepped on to start lining up, not to cry, but to speak. I didn't want pity. I wanted results. And now I had Tanya, his new girlfriend, and a full stack of evidence. Bank records, fake divorce papers, video of Derek's arrest, messages from Joanne threatening Melanie, plus the credit card fraud and forged signature on the car title. It was a mess, but it was a complete mess. The kind lawyers and judges notice. With Tanya's help, we filed a formal affidavit stating Derek had used stolen documents and lied to her about our marriage. She submitted it to the DA's office and agreed to testify if needed. That changed everything. Now it wasn't just civil. It was criminal. 3 weeks later, I got the call. Derek had finally been arrested again, this time on the identity theft charges tied to the forged divorce filing and the stolen car. But here's the part that felt like justice. They picked him up at Joanne's house. He'd gone back to Mommy after Tanya threw him out. Melanie and I drove out to Decatur the next day. I didn't go to see Joanne. I didn't want a scene. I went to see the house, the one she'd claimed would never belong to a nobody like me. It had a foreclosure notice on the door. The porch was covered in junk. Trash bags, broken chairs, cigarette butts. The grass hadn't been mowed in months. That beautiful, 2-story home she was so proud of? It looked empty. Hollow. Just like her. Melanie whispered. "She's probably still inside. Too stubborn to leave." She was right. We saw her through the curtain, sitting in a chair smoking. Alone. The court gave me a partial settlement from the estate, small, but symbolic. Enough to help me pay off the rest of my debt, replace what was stolen, and hire a lawyer to finalize the real divorce, on my terms. Derek was charged with felony identity theft and 2 counts of fraud. He got a plea deal, but part of it required him to pay restitution or face jail time. He didn't have the money. Joanne couldn't help him. No one else stepped in. So he went to jail. 14 months. Minimum. The man who laughed at me on that couch, the one who called me convenient and nobody, was now sleeping in a cot smaller than the one I curled up on in that sewing room. But that wasn't the ending. A few weeks after his sentencing, I got a letter in the mail. No return address again. This time, it was from Joanne. Inside was 1 page. Handwritten. Shaky. "I lost everything. Derek. The house. My name in this town. You got what you wanted. I hope it was worth it. You'll always be small. Just a girl who got lucky. You'll never be family to anyone." I laughed. I didn't respond. But I kept the letter. Not out of spite, out of proof. Proof that even after everything, she still believed I was beneath her. Still couldn't admit the truth. Her son did this. She helped him. And I stopped them both. I bought a used car. Nothing fancy. I rented a quiet place near Melanie. I got a job managing a bakery, just like I always wanted. I wake up at 5 a.m. to the smell of coffee and fresh dough, not insults and slammed doors. I started dating again. Nothing serious. I'm not in a rush. I don't need saving. Melanie and I? Closer than ever. We laugh again. Real laughs. As for Tanya, we talk sometimes. Turns out she wasn't the only ex Derek had lined up during our marriage. Another woman messaged me recently. Same story. Lies, fake charm, then control. We're all working on something together now. A site. A page. A warning. A place where women can share the red flags before it's too late. Because the real revenge wasn't the lawsuit. It wasn't the money. It wasn't even the prison sentence. The real revenge? Is that I walked away from the storm they tried to bury me in, and I built something better with the rubble. And they'll spend the rest of their lives explaining why the nobody they threw out ended up being the one person who could take everything they had, and still come out clean.